Hey there guys, Buddy here. So today we're going to be taking a look at the tertiary sector as well as the informal sector. So the tertiary sector is going to be part of the economy that's going to provide services rather than producing goods. So like I mentioned in a previous video, if you can think of a service that's going to be provided in your community, then most likely that's going to be part of the tertiary sector. Now the tertiary sector is going to support both the primary and the secondary sectors by transporting, selling and marketing their products. So let's take an example, right? Let's say in the primary sector, you're going to extract wood from the natural environment. Now in the secondary sector, that wood is then going to be transformed into something useful, like a table or a cupboard. Now in the tertiary sector, we're going to have our transport companies which are going to transport this cupboard or this table from where it's made in the secondary sector to the customer. So that's basically how your tertiary sector is going to support both the primary or the secondary sector. And it also provides essential services to people and businesses. So what are some examples of jobs in the tertiary sector? Firstly, you're going to have your truck drivers, your pilots, your ship captains. You're then going to have your bankers, your accountants, your lawyers. You have your doctors, your nurses or your teachers, as well as your lecturers. Remember, if you think about it like this, I'm also going to be part of the tertiary sector because I'm providing you with a service, right? I'm teaching you rather than providing you with the actual product, which could be a textbook, right? We also have your shop assistants. Think of your cashiers, your sales managers. Now, another important factor would be the contribution of the tertiary sector to the South African economy. So what is the first contribution of the tertiary sector to the South African economy? Firstly, you're going to have a contribution to the GDP. The tertiary sector is going to be the largest contributor to the South African economy, making up more than 60% of the GDP. Because remember, most people are going to be working in the tertiary sector. Secondly, it will be job creation, right? So the tertiary sector is going to provide the most employment opportunities in South Africa. Millions of people work in retail, banking, education, healthcare, tourism and transport. Thirdly, the tertiary sector is going to earn foreign exchange because your tourism, your international trade and your financial services are going to bring in your foreign currency, and that's going to strengthen the economy. Your tertiary sector is going to support your other sectors, right? So transport is going to move your agricultural goods, minerals and manufactured products. Remember, once all the minerals have been mined, those minerals are going to have to be transported via your trucks, via your trains, and that's all going to be part of the tertiary sector. Banking and insurance are going to help your farmers, your miners and industries grow. Education and healthcare are going to improve your workforce productivity. And lastly, you're going to have your infrastructure development. So the tertiary sector is going to expand services like roads, airports, railways, ICT and electricity. Basically, it's going to help connect South Africa to the global economy. So now we get to the informal sector, right? And from the name, you can sort of get an idea of what it's all about. The informal sector is part of the economy which consists of businesses that operate without formal contracts, registration or government regulation. So basically they're going to be unregistered, right? It's usually going to include small-scale unregistered businesses, self-employment and casual work. Now examples may include your street vendors, your hawkers, your street barbers. Also, if you're like me and you went to a public school, think about the auntie that's going to be sitting outside the school selling things, right? She's going to be part of the informal sector. Now, sometimes the informal sector can be called by different names. It can be called the second economy. It can be called the hidden economy. So if you do see that in an exam, just know we're talking about the informal sector. So what are some characteristics of the informal sector? Firstly, it's going to be made up of self-employed workers, right? People are going to be working for themselves. They're going to be selling their own goods. Very often, it's mainly going to have women and children involved in this sector. Now, if you think about it, how many times have you seen women selling stuff on the side of the road, right? In fact, it's mostly going to be women and children. The businesses are going to be unregistered and often unregulated by the government. Remember, they're not going to pay any tax at all. There's going to be limited access to formal finance or banking. Again, no bank is going to give a loan to a person that's going to be selling things on the side of the road. They're going to operate in both your urban and your rural areas. There's going to be flexible working hours and low startup costs. Remember, it's not going to cost much just to sit on the side of the road selling your products as compared to setting up a whole store, registering the store, buying stock. It's going to mainly be a characteristic of a developing country. Remember, South Africa is a developing country. There's going to be unsafe and unhealthy working conditions. Remember, these people are going to be working in all weather conditions, under the hot sun, under heavy rain, and some of them even get knocked on the side of the road. So it's very unhealthy and it's very unsafe. And lastly, there's going to be no contribution to the GDP in the form of taxes, because remember, they don't pay any taxes. Now, what is the importance of the informal sector? Remember, if you're in an exam and you're struggling to remember these, just think of all the benefits or the importance of receiving an income. Remember, the informal sector is going to provide employment and a source of income for people who cannot find formal jobs. Remember, in today's day and age, a lot of people cannot find a formal job. That's why so many people are going to resort to the informal sector to try to earn a living. So the informal sector is going to reduce crime by creating employment. Remember, people will not resort to crime if they receive an income. Thirdly, we're going to have your income generation. So this is going to help people earn a living and it's going to help them to support their families. The informal sector is going to provide support to the formal sector by supplying goods and services to formal businesses. And another importance of the informal sector would be skill development. Remember, it's going to offer opportunities for entrepreneurship and experience. Now, what are some reasons for the development of the informal sector? So firstly, why does the informal sector exist and why is it growing? So the first reason would be high unemployment. Remember, many people cannot find formal jobs. Think about how many jobs are being lost due to mechanization, right? Your farming machines are taking over. Especially now in 2025 and 2026 going forward, think about how many jobs are going to be lost due to AI. Also, people do not have your formal qualifications and that is going to cause them to not be able to find jobs. Another thing that South Africans are experiencing, even if they do have a degree, a qualification, they still cannot get the job because they do not have any experience, right? Remember, employers, they want experience. So another reason for the development of the informal sector would be poverty. Remember, people start small businesses in order to survive. Another reason would be because your immigrants are not able to find your legal employment, right? Therefore, they're going to enter this informal sector in order to survive. Remember, a lot of them do not have any paperwork. Now remember, in the informal sector, there's going to be low startup costs, and therefore it's going to require little capital to begin. There's going to be flexibility, right? You can operate without strict regulations or formal contracts. And just like any other sector, the informal sector will experience problems, right? Sometimes more than others. Remember, the first problem that's going to be faced by the informal sector would be the lack of capital. So there's going to be a great difficulty in accessing loans or financial support. Now remember, this is going to lead to these vendors that are going to go borrow money from people that will charge them very high interest rates, right? And that's going to lead them to always being in debt because they are going to constantly be borrowing in order to pay back other loans, right? Now, these traders are going to be constantly harassed by authorities because remember, informal sector activities are going to be considered illegal. Now, for example, when I was in high school many years ago, the auntie that used to sit outside selling things, the school actually chased her away, right? They told us it was because the snacks that she used to sell was very unhealthy. And then a few weeks later, we actually found out that the real reason why they chased her away was because she was making much more money than the school tuck shop. Now, thirdly, there's not going to be any legal protection for these vendors, right? So workers and businesses are not covered by any labor laws. There's going to be poor working conditions, right? You can have limited access to safe workspaces, sanitation, or equipment. So basically, these hawkers are going to sell things on the side of the road, right? On the pavement. And that means that they're going to be exposed to rain, to these hot temperatures, and very often, like I mentioned earlier, they will get knocked and die. So it is very difficult for them to earn a living. There's going to be a lot of competition from your formal sector. Remember, larger companies can outcompete these small informal businesses. So many operators have minimal formal education or business training. There's going to be unstable income, so your earnings are going to be unpredictable and seasonal. Some days these hawkers might not make any money. Some days they may make a lot of money. And like we mentioned earlier again, banks do not grant loans to traders. And lastly, there's going to be the lack of infrastructure, right? There's going to be poor roads, electricity, and water supply, and that will limit their growth. So what are some measures to improve the informal sector? So basically, provide small, low-interest loans to start or expand businesses, host skill development and training, So offer workshops on business management, marketing and finance. Infrastructure support. Improve roads, electricity, water and sanitation in areas with informal businesses, right? They can provide hawkers with stalls in these areas. That'll make their lives a lot easier, right? Legal recognition and protection. So you're going to have to register these informal businesses and provide social security benefits. Market access support. Help informal traders reach bigger markets or sell to informal businesses. And provide your government incentives. So reduce taxes, provide subsidies, or create programs that support your small businesses. And that's it for today, guys. I hope this video helped you guys understand the tertiary and informal sector a little better. I want to thank you so much for watching, and I want to wish you all the best for your exams and tests. May God bless you all. Once again, thank you so much for being here. And remember, stay cool, stay curious, and I'll see you in the next one. Goodbye.